Welcome to video number 4. This one is about subtracting integers. Our first problem looks really simple, something that you probably did in elementary school, but we're going to use the chips to help us visualize it. So 5 minus 2. Remember we talked about in our last video that every black chip represents a positive 1, and you'll see in just a minute, remember red chips are negative 1. So let's imagine that we have 5 black chips. We're going to take away 2. So when we take away 2, we're going to do it just like this on our board. So imagine 2 chips leaving. So now we've got 3 left. 1, 2, 3. Our answer is 3. Okay, keep the chips in mind as we go to another problem that's a little bit harder. Now we've got 3 black chips, but our problem is 3 minus 4. Now that's interesting because we don't have 4 to take away this time. But remember in our last video we also talked about 0 pairs. Remember 0 pairs is when we add a black chip and a red chip at the same time because it doesn't change the value of anything. For the additive inverse, negative 1 plus positive 1 is 0. So it doesn't change anything if I add a 0 pair, a black and a red. So now I do have 4 to take away. So imagine that these 4 black are going to leave. We're going to take them away. And now I'm left with 1 red. So 3 minus 4 is equal to negative 1. Okay, another scenario. You're going to see this one a few different times in a few different scenarios. This is pretty tricky for students sometimes. When we talk about subtracting away a negative, so pay attention to when you see subtracting a negative because there's a few different ways to think about it. First way is to think about your chips. So our problem is negative 5, take away negative 7. So I've got 5 red chips to start off with, which represents my negative 5. To take away negative 7, well, I don't have 7 red chips to take away. So again, we're going to start off thinking about this with our 0 pairs. So I'm going to add a red chip and a black chip together. But they have to come together. The additive inverse tells me this doesn't change anything. Negative 1 plus positive 1 is 0. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 red to take away, but I need to take away 7. So I've got to add another pair. Now I do have 7 to take away. So let's take a look at what that happens when we do take away those 7. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to circle all of those. Imagine all of those leaving our board. And think about what's left. I've got 2 black chips left, which remember represent positive 1 each, so that's positive 2. Let's look at the same problem again, but in this case it's going to be with a number line. So notice it is the same exact problem, but remember there's a few different ways to think about subtracting and negative. So same problem, negative 5 minus negative 7. So in this problem we're going to use a little visual here. We're going to think about this car. We're going to see this in different scenarios that we do this year. So when we think about our car driving around on the number line, it's going to start at 0. So negative 5, that means I'm going to back up 5 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's make a dot there just so we know where we are now. So the car backed up 5 spaces. Now we've got take away or subtract, which tells me that my car is going to do a U-turn. So think about your car reversing direction, subtract, and now we've got negative 7, which remember negative tells me to back up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Look, I ended up at 2, positive 2 again. So we get the same answer as we did to the last problem with chips, using our card to help us visualize it. So positive 2 again is our answer. Think about how those two different ways to think about it give us the same answer. Okay, one more way to think about subtracting a negative. When we subtract a negative, again, think about how that works. Think about a test that you may have. So if you get a test back and it has -5 at the top, well, if it has -5 at the top, you know your score, if it's out of 100, is going to be a 95. So here's our number sentence. 100 plus a -5 is equal to 95. Let's say maybe the teacher made a mistake. Maybe those -5 points were a mistake and you really did get those 5 points. So let's say the teacher has to take away those -5 points. When we take away those -5 points, your score goes back up to 100. So think about the number line, the chips, and real life to subtract a negative.